Christina Hendricks, on any given show, any given season, I always find that sometimes there's an MVP, that comes out of all of the, the storylines or the way things are set up. And I was telling somebody the other day, I said, I think Christina was the MVP of this last 7 episodes.
Thank you.
How did you feel as you got those scripts for these 7 episodes? Especially there were about 3 or 4 of them there that had such strong material.
I was thrilled. I mean, of course, we're sort of notorious for not knowing what happens until we get the scripts, and so we were all just waiting with bated breath to see how this was going to wrap up after all these years. And it was very pleasing. It was very cathartic. It was great to me to see Joan's storylines sort of bring us full circle. It's a struggle that she's been having since the beginning of the series, and she's grown and changed, and there's been so many things to sort of end up at square one and seeing the same kind of treatment towards her, and it's just so frustrating, and yet she still sort of comes out on top. I was very, very happy to see that ending.
She, from the very, very beginning, early days of Mad Men, like you say, she had worked her way up through the system so well, and being a small agency, they had become so accepting of her and what she did, most of them at least, in that era and the 60s. But like you say, when they joined this huge, massive new firm, it just all changed again.
Yeah, obviously for all the characters. I mean, Don certainly doesn't respond well when he gets there. And they anticipate it, when they find out that they're being sort of dissolved and brought over, it just absolute fear sets in for everyone. They sort of know that they've got a unique situation going on for themselves. And sure enough, so it proves to be true. But I loved that Joan went up face to face with these, heads of the agency, and she certainly tried, and she spoke her mind, and she was right. But I feel like it's a good sign when you want to punch the TV, because you want to support your character, and you want good things to happen to her, and they don't, and it's just great writing.
One thing I want to walk through this season a little bit, but the first episode that we saw here in the spring was called Severance, and one of my favorite moments in there, like I think every season you have a couple of really good Joan and Peggy moments, and in that particular one, you have gone over to the agency. They're not absorbing you yet in terms of bringing you over, but you have to go over there for a meeting, and it doesn't go well at all. And you don't really even the two of you being women don't even see eye to eye on how it should have been handled.
Yeah, we shot that scene twice actually. I guess we didn't quite get it right the first time. Matt had a very, very, very specific idea of what he wanted, and I'm glad that we got an opportunity to shoot it again, because I was really happy with how it turned out. But to me, it was such a great storyline, because here's this judgment and this assumptions and all this sort of horrible behavior, and we're always saying it's coming from the men, it's always coming from the men, and here's your coworker and sort of friend of a certain amount of years who turns around and does the exact same thing to you. And it was just, I thought it was heartbreaking to see those two women have that moment.
Talk about, all these years, I think the fans have really enjoyed those Joan Peggy moments from the very beginning, when you bring her on board as a secretary, all the way through, all the different changes and things over the years. Talk about just that relationship and working with Elizabeth Moss.
Well, she's one of the finest actors I've ever worked with. She's extraordinary, and we've both sort of been quite vocal about how we like doing those scenes as well. They're two very, very different women who very much respect each other and learn from each other all the time, but sort of fight it and won't admit it, and kick and scream sort of in their relationship together, but keep being drawn back. Obviously at the end of the season, you see Joan approach her and say, she wants to start a business with her. So there's definitely a mutual respect, a camaraderie, a great appreciation of each other. But like Matt said early on, is these two women will never be friends.
Do you think that's why one of the reasons why Peggy turned that down? Because I was a little surprised she turned it down.
I was too. I don't think it had anything about to to do with personal relationships. I think Peggy really was on a certain trajectory and had certain skill set that she really wanted to see flourish. And this maybe was a departure. I think she really did choose, Stan helps her come to that realization too. So there's a little Stan going in there.
That's true. That's true. Backing up a little bit, the episode after Severance is the one where you're in California and you meet Bruce Greenwood's character. I didn't know where that relationship was going. I'm sure you were waiting on the scripts too to see where this relationship was going. It just seemed like such a great match.
It did. Well, we liked that he had this sort of swagger and confidence about him in a Roger sort of way, where you could see that Joan had a type, but then so much more confident and sort of successful and very aware of who he is and what he wanted. And it did seem like a very good Joan match. And yet it wasn't. He was in a different place in her life and she wasn't ready to compromise. And we've seen her stay firm about what she wants and her needs several times now. So it was consistent and it was a little bittersweet. You wanted her to find love, but not if it's not the right thing.
Yeah, it turned out, with that ending that, she chose the career trying to, to start her own new career over that, in a way over that relationship, because he basically said, it's me or the new job. We're not going to have both here. Plus, he never was really fully sold on kind of starting back over, raising another child after his others had grown up.
No, he wasn't into baby Kevin. And of course, baby Kevin is Joan's main priority. So yeah, he was very uncertain about that to begin with. And I think, when he comes back to her and says, I screwed up, here's flowers, let's try again. I'd love to meet your mom. I'd love to meet the kid. And she's like, I think she even says like, we'll see. Okay, we'll see. And she was seeing, but she wasn't going to give her dreams away for this guy.
Well, and I think some people in our forums and on other sites I saw too, and correct me if I'm wrong here, when she says, I don't know the exact wording, but said to him about, well, I'll send him off to a boarding school. Was that just a test from her to see what he would say? Or was she really willing to do that?
Oh, no. I think she was being so dryly sarcastic to just let him hear his own words out loud and how ludicrous they are. Oh, no, you're right. I love you and I've only known you for a week, but no, I'm going to send my son away. You're right. That's a great idea. It's just so ludicrous. She just wanted him to have to hear it.
Well, that's why I think some people misunderstood it, because I saw people even in our forums going, would Joan really do that? And
no, Joan would never do that.
What was it like? I have liked Bruce Greenwood ever since St. Elsewhere. And he's in so many. He's that kind of guy when you see him pop up in a movie or a TV show, you're like, oh, okay, we're in good hands here.
Yeah, I agree. I was thrilled when they cast him. I didn't know who it was going to be. I did know that I must have known that there was going to be a love interest maybe a few days before. I think what happened is the script came out and they hadn't cast it yet is what happened. So I was so thrilled when it was him. I think he's such a great actor and he was such a generous actor, really just dove straight in. And when you have a show that's been going for 8 seasons and you come in the last few episodes, that's a tricky place to jump in last minute. A very established family, and he just came in with great confidence and ease, and he was wonderful.
Yeah, I think as a fan of the show, or any given fan, I mean, you want to see Joan happy in a relationship. So I think when you see, I mean, you don't want like a famous face like George Clooney, but if you have somebody like a Bruce Greenwood, who people basically know, but he's not so overwhelmingly famous that you're like, oh, what's he doing here? That I think you just kind of automatically have that comfort level with Joan and this guy.
Yeah, he was a wonderful choice. Obviously, if you see Bruce, you're going to think, oh, this guy's not going anywhere for a little bit. He's going to be sticking around. Otherwise, why would he be there? Like you said. and yet it didn't feel like sort of stunt casting in any way. It seemed completely appropriate and completely natural. So it was a good choice on their part.
And it was certainly right in Matt's wheelhouse to, kind of pull the bait and switch on that. I mean, you think, okay, this is going to be the guy for her for 3 or 4 episodes, and in that finale, he can't handle the kid and the new job, so he walks.
Yeah, I had no idea. I really thought, okay, this is how it ends for Joan. She falls in love, and my fear was that she would fall in love and leave work and go home and be a housewife, which is exactly what I did not want for her. So I was pleased that she stuck to her guns.
And you just have to imagine here, unless Matt told you something, but do you think that career, that new business she started took off and she was very successful?
Of course. She's Joan. And listen, she's starting a business out of her Manhattan apartment with her sort of horrible nanny helping answer the phones and trying to feed a small child in between. So I'm sure that there would be many struggles, but I think she's got a lot of experience under her belt and a lot of clients that would want to work with her.
And not desperate for money right away.
And not desperate for money. That helps.
She could build the business.
Exactly.
Well, I'm guessing, I mean, you know this Emmy game now. You've been nominated, 5 times in a row. I'm guessing the Lost Horizon episode where you stand up to the McCann, would that be your episode if nominated again?
That is, oh, I hear that echo all of a sudden. That is probably the episode that I got the most phone calls from friends and family, and even some wonderful emails from actresses that I know in town. They really responded to that. So I would guess that would be the one. I loved so many moments in this whole season. It's always hard to choose one. Well,
yeah, of course that one, and even the one in California. I think that whole episode opens with you, so that one is a main focus for you as well.
But I also love the episode with the scene with Peggy and I, like you were talking about, where they're at McCann and the guys are just sort of treating Joan horrifically, and then they have that amazing elevator scene. That was an important episode to me as well.
It's really a shame. I wish they would think about it at some point in the future. Maybe, a given nominee, being able to edit together their favorite scenes from a season rather than just one episode.
I know. I wonder why. Maybe that's too much work for everyone.
I wondered that years ago. I mean, a couple of decades ago, and we were just people talking. Nobody at the Academy confirmed this, but the fear, I think, was that different editors, different producers. I mean, some would do a good job with that, some would not do a good job with that.
That makes sense. That it would be sort of swayed by whoever you got to help edit. That makes sense.
Some people do that, like if they're doing their own, or if the studio's doing like a campaign for them, like at this part of the summer, that's certainly legal to do. But in terms of as you have to submit a whole episode,
right.
For the judges later on. But I think I would go Lost Horizon. I mean, whether you're talking Emmys or Oscars or Tonys, I mean, voters, we all are. You're sitting in an audience somewhere. We're all suckers for defiance. We love somebody that just stands up for themselves.
Sticks it to them.
That's right. I think they get the great walk out the door too.
Well, thank you for your opinion. I probably will choose that if I'm lucky enough to have to choose one.
Well, you go with what you want. I've helped a lot of people over the years, and a few of them have actually won. So let's see. Now that we got Anna Gunn out of the way, let's see what we can do here.
Anna Gunn, she's wonderful. Oh my gosh.
I know. At least it ought to be a really interesting year. That whole drama side with Breaking Bad going, they won series, Brian won, Aaron won, and Anna won. So we're going to have a lot of new drama winners this coming year.
I know. Time to switch it up.
Time for it. Just a couple of last questions. The final week of shooting, what was your final moment that you shot?
My final moment was the actual final moment. The last day of shooting, I think Matt specifically tried, there were sort of bits of montage, sort of smaller scenes at the end, and a lot of us shot him that day. So to add to it being already incredibly emotional. We were actually playing our last moments, so it was quite heavy of a day, and so special and emotional, and it hasn't really, here it is a year later, and it hasn't really settled in quite yet. I'm really missing that whole team of people and the way they work together, and I just, they were just spectacular. Everyone over there was spectacular.
And another great moment in the finale was, you know, we always love a good Roger and Joan scene, and he comes to your apartment to tell you about the inheritance, which I thought was a great scene.
Yeah, it was a good scene. It was, you know, sort of letting him be a part of the family as much as she felt comfortable with, and feeling like her son was going to be safe and cared for, and that they can have a laugh. They can have a laugh about the fact that, you know, he's fallen in love with Megan Draper's mother, and you know.
That kind of shocked her that he actually went with somebody closer to his own age.
Well, I love when, you know, she just has a moment to just go, God, that's wonderful, or that's amazing, or something, and she just has such a laugh about it after all the secretaries and things she's had to watch day to day in the office, that he ends up, you know, with a mature if not crazy woman.
And I think we've talked about this before, but now that it's all over, and I guess it's been a year now since you shot it, just working with John Slattery all those years.
It's just, he's so special to me. And, you know, the fact that he asked me to work in his film that he directed was such an honor. And we just have a very huge respect for one another. And he has made me such a better actress by getting to do scenes with him. I think, you know, doing scenes with him, I thought, oh, an actress is always trying to have that very, very real, honest moment. And I always have them with him. And there's nothing that feels better than walking out of a scene and having that feeling. So I'll always be grateful to him.
And last question, what was it like watching the finale, especially since you shot it so far from the time you actually got to see it?
I had forgotten a few things. I had my best friends and my family come watch it at the house with me. I knew it was going to be really, really emotional, and I needed it to be in sort of a safe, intimate setting. So all my best friends were there, and it was okay. I thought I was going to cry a lot more at the end of it. I thought, but I was just so proud of it. And I immediately said, okay, so if you don't like it, you can tell me, because it's over, so it doesn't matter now, so be really honest. And everyone loved it, which was a nice feeling too. And everyone wanted to talk about it in the different moments. And so I got to just sit there and enjoy hearing other people enjoy it.
And what a great idea for the last shot that you see is Jon Hamm with the big grin on his face.
So good. So good. You know, to me, the ending is just perfect. And of course, that advertisement is so iconic. I remember it so well as a child, that I just thought it was, you know, that he's gone on this great journey, and at the end of it all, he comes up with the best Coke ad. I just thought that was brilliant.
Dollar signs already in his eyes.
Exactly.
But for the right reasons.
Maybe for the right reasons. I also think he's competitive, and I think when he sat in that room full of Don Drapers at this new agency, he wanted to win, and he usually does.
Yeah. Maybe you will. Maybe we finally get you an Emmy here in September.
Oh, well, you know, fingers crossed.
Well, thank you so much. You and I've talked at least 2 or 3 times over the last few years, and I've talked to so many of the Mad Men people. I feel like I've been on part of the journey myself.
I know you have been.
Well, good luck with all that. Hope you have a great summer.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.